US spends 44% of its GDP on just defense and military, and it is just one of many countries that spends a fortune on their weapon and armed forces. Today, we look at the cost of advanced weapons and their expenditures to maintain them. We will glance at the overall picture and look at some specific countries as well. What is the amount of money required for countries to be able to maintain their arsenal? Which countries are spending the most and how much? In 2021, total worldwide military spending will increase by 0.7% in real terms to $2,113 billion. According to new data on global military expenditures published today by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the 5 most lavish spenders in 2021 will be the United States, China, India, the United Kingdom, and Russia, accounting for 62% of the total expenditures, SIPRI. Military spending reaches a new high in the second year of the pandemic. In 2021, global military expenditures reached an all-time high of $2.1 trillion. This was the 7th year in a row that spending climbed. Even amid the economic consequences from the COVID-19 outbreak, world military spending reaches all-time highs, stated Dr. Diego Lopez de Silva, senior researcher with SIPRI's Military Expenditures and Arms Production Program. Inflation caused a slowdown in the rate of real-term growth. In nominal terms, however, military spending increased by 6.1%. As a result of a robust economic rebound in 2021, worldwide military spending a proportion of global GDP will fall by 0.1 percentage points, from 2.3% in 2020 to 2.2% in 2021. Military spending in the United States was $801 billion in 2021, a 1.4% decrease from the previous year. The military burden in the United States fell marginally from 3.7% of the GDP in 2020 to 3.5% in 2021. The military R&D budget in the United States increased by 24% between 2012 and 2021, while arms procurement funding decreased by 6.4% during the same time. Spending on both dropped in 2021. However, the decline in R&D investment and negative 1.2% was less in arms procurement spending, negative 5.4%. The growth in R&D spending from 2012 to 21 implies that the United States is focused more on the next generation technology, says the report. Alexandra Mark Steiner, a researcher with SIPRI's Military Expenditures and Arms Production Program, echoed this sentiment. The US government has frequently emphasized the importance of maintaining the US military's technological lead over strategic competitors. Russia's increased its military spending by 2.9% in 2021 to $65.9 billion. As it also bolstered its forces among the Ukrainian borders. This was Russia's 3rd year of growing, with military spending reaching 4.1% of GDP in 2021. High oil and gas income assisted Russia in increasing military spending in 2021. On the other hand, the Russian military spending fell between 2016 and 19 due to low energy prices, mixed with sanctions imposed in reaction to Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea, said Lucy Biro-Sidorow, director of SIPRI's Military Expenditures and Arms Production Program. The national defense budget line, which accounts for around 3/4 of Russia's overall military spending and includes financing for operational costs and arms procurement, was amended upwards for the year. As a result, the ultimate sum was $48.4 billion, 14% more than projected by the end of 2020. Ukraine's military spending has increased by 72% after the seizure of Crimea in 2014, as it has bolstered its defenses against Russia. As a result, spending declined to $5.9 billion in 2021, but accounted for 3.2% of the country's GDP. China, the world's 2nd largest spender, is expected to allocate $293 billion to its military in 2021, a 4.7% increase over 2020. China's military budget has increased for the past 27 years. The Chinese budget for 2021 was the first under the 14th five-year plan, which continues through 2025, following the initial ratification of its 2021 budget. the Japanese government increased military spending by $7 billion. As a result, spending is expected to climb by 7.3% to $54.1 billion in 2021, the most considerable annual increase since 1972. Military expenditures in Australia will rise by 4% in 2021 to be $31.8 billion. China's increasing aggressiveness in and around the South and East China Seas has become a major driver of military spending in nations such as Australia and Japan, says the report. Dr. Nan Tian, senior researcher at SIPRI, an example is the AUKUS Trilateral Security Pact between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, which calls for supplying 8 nuclear-powered submarines to Australia for up to $128 billion. Iran's military budget will rise to $24.6 billion in 2021 for the first time in 4 years. In addition, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps funding increased by 14% in 2021 compared to 2020, accounting for 34% of Iran's total military spending. In 2021, 8 of European North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO states met the alliances aiming for spending 2% or more GDP on defense. This is one fewer than in 2020, but it is an increase from 2 in 2014. Nigeria increased its military budget by 56% in 2021 to $4.5 billion. The increase occurred in response to several security issues, including violent extremism and separatist insurgencies. In 2021, Germany, the third largest spender in Central and Western Europe, spent $56 billion on its military, or 1.3% of its GDP. Due to inflation, military spending was 1.4% lower than in 2020. Qatar's military budget in 2021 is expected to be $11.6 billion, ranking it 5th in the Middle East. Qatar's military budget in 2021 will be 434% greater than in 2010, the last time the country provided spending figures before 2021. India's military budget was the third largest in the world at $76.6 billion. This increased by 0.9% from 2020 and 33% from 2012. To strengthen the indigenous arms sector, 64% of capital expenditures in 2021 military budget were targeted for procurement of domestically produced arms. The first fission atomic bomb test delivered an amount of energy equivalent to 20,000 tons of TNT. The first thermonuclear hydrogen bomb test discharged the equivalent of 10 million tons of TNT. Nuclear bombs have produced outputs ranging from 10 tons of TNT, the W-54, to 50 megatons, the Tsar Bomba, CTNT equivalent. A thermonuclear weapon is as light as 600 pounds, 270 kilograms, can provide enough energy to detonate more than 1.2 megatons of TNT. A nuclear device the size of a conventional bomb may destroy an entire city through blast, fire, and radiation. Nuclear weapons proliferation is a topic of international relations strategy because they are weapons of mass destruction. Atomic bombs were used in combat twice. One by the United States against Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. Nuclear bombs have only been deployed twice in battle, both by the US against Japan near the end of World War II. On August 6, 1945, the United States Army Air Forces dropped a uranium gun fusion bomb over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, on August 9, the United States Army Air Forces dropped a plutonium implosion-type fusion bomb over the Japanese city of Nagasaki. Approximately 200,000 civilians and military personnel were killed due to these bombings. The ethics of these bombs and their significance in Japanese capitulation are hotly debated topics. Nuclear weapons have exploded over 2,000 times for testing and demonstration since the atomic bomb of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, yet only a few countries are known to have such weapons or to be on the lookout for them. The only countries known to have detonated nuclear bombs and admit to holding them are in the chronological order: the United States, the Soviet Union, Russia, the United Kingdoms, France, China, India, Pakistan, and North Korea. Israel is thought to have nuclear weapon, but it does not acknowledge having them, due to a policy of purposeful ambiguity. Germany, Italy, Turkey, Belgium, and the Netherlands have nuclear weapons. South Africa is the only country that produces atomic bombs and later renounced and dismantled them. The Treaty of Nuclear Non-Proliferation tries to reduce the spread of nuclear weapons. However, its effectiveness has been called into question. Weapons modernization continues to this day. $72.9 billion in total. That's how much 9 countries spent in 2019 on nuclear weapons. In a recent analysis, ICANN developed the first estimate of worldwide nuclear weapons spending in a decade, considering expenses to maintain and build new nuclear weapons. That equates to $138,699 spent on nuclear weapons per minute around the planet. Global nuclear spending increased by $7.1 billion from 2018 to 2019, mirroring the massive increase in total military spending from 2018 to 19. When a specific budget data was unavailable, the research drew on hundreds of various sources to estimate each country's military and nuclear spending. China spent $10.4 billion on nuclear weapons in 2019, while France spent $4.8 billion. India spent $2.3 billion. Israel spent $1 billion. North Korea spent $0.6 billion. Pakistan spent $1 billion. Russia spent $8.4 billion. The United Kingdom paid $8.9 billion. The United States spent $35.4 billion. Beatrice Finn, executive director of ICANN, commented, "It is ridiculous to spend $138,700 every minute on weapons that cause catastrophic human harm rather than spending it to preserve their citizens' health. They are abdicating their responsibility to defend their citizens. These countries continue to squander billions of dollars each year on weapons of mass devastation that will soon be prohibited." The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which prohibits the development, production, and manufacture of atomic bombs, presently has 35 ratifications or accessions and 81 signatures. It will enter into force once it receives 50 ratifications or accessions. The billions spent on nuclear weapon may instead be used to buy supplies and research to help people worldwide battle COVID-19. According to ICANN analysis, each country spending on nuclear weapons could rather pay for at least 100,000 intensive care unit beds, tens of thousands of ventilators, and tens of thousands of annual salaries for nurses and doctors.